Hey y'all, what is up? Keasbey here. So today we're going to be bringing you a replay commentary of a matchup you'll probably be seeing a fair bit of in the coming weeks, and that is going to be Floowandereeze versus Sky Striker. But before we get into that, don't forget to drop this video a like, subscribe to the channel for even more, and check out the link in the description if you want to help out the channel by picking up a playmat. So, Floowandereeze is a complicated matchup at Sky Striker. Both decks, out of the box, run hard counters to each other. On the Floowandereeze side, MPen shuts down all the Sky Striker Link monsters, which do a fair amount of heavy lifting for the deck. Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds shuts off their ability to start making monster-based plays with the exception of Hayate, and shuts off Raye's Recursion once Hayate is cleared as well. Speaking of, even in ideal situations for Sky Striker, they tend to normal summon, which plays into map. And this is all to say nothing for the fact that 3D shifters is standard, cutting off graveyard access and banishing their used spells. And that Stree and DD Crow as well are searchable graveyard disruptions. We also have one other pretty big power play versus Sky Striker, but I won't get into that here because it comes in a major way during Game 2. If you can figure it out, drop a comment below and show off that Floowandereeze knowledge of yours. On the flip side of that, Sky Striker runs roughly 1800 hand trap standard, which if we don't draw well can shut off a Floowandereeze turn while leaving them with enough resources to start that resource loop that makes Sky Striker so strong. Widow Anchor is a searchable answer to everything we do, and it not only negates our small birds, but it can take them away from us, which removes them as tribute resources as well. Being able to make Hayate under Barrier Statue is a plus, but they do still need the resources to respond to Dreaming Counter map. Factor in the fact that Sky Striker can run a very transformative side deck, and it's one of the more malleable decks out there. It's really not a forgiving matchup for our birds when we're faced off against a skilled Sky Striker pilot. So now that we've talked a little bit about the matchup, let's get into the game itself. Alright, so starting this game off, we are looking at one copy of Toucan, two Potted Dualities, a Robina, and an Advent of Adventure. Really good hand. Our opponent, unfortunately, is looking at two Imperms, a Veiler, Pot of Desires, and Engage. So they have hard counters to our hand, plus 2 ways to go off. We're going to open up with Pot of Duality, and we are going to grab Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. If we didn't think that we would potentially have to use Advent of Adventure, you could add the D shifter and then clear your own graveyard with Stree down the line. But we're going to grab the one that's more generically useful on the off chance that we can't clear our own graveyard. So Robina, that's going to take an effect Veiler, and we do misplay here. We could have grabbed Map, which would have let us use Toucan with the map to kind of go off. It wouldn't have mattered because they have the two Imperms, but without that knowledge, we probably should have done that. The major misplay here, though, is that we search out Eaglin with Advent and we searched out Barrier Statue with Robina, which means that even if Eaglin had resolved, we would not have been able to get MPen on board because we are going to use Robina to chain block. She's already used her effect, so we did kind of cut ourselves off from being able to summon out the MPen. So it was a little bit of bad sequencing and poor decision making there, so don't do what I just did. Again, I like showing off my misplays so that you guys don't do them. And unfortunately, that is the end of our turn. I always end up hitting the Desires with Ash Blossom. It's just too tempting not to. And immediately punish for it with Engage. So this isn't our best game one, but I feel obligated to show the game one before I show the game two. And again, if you learn anything from my misplays, then awesome, they were worth making. So they're just doing their standard Sky Striker stuff, and we know about Widow Anchor here now. Fortunately, we rip another Advent off the top. So we're going to fire off Duality here. We're going to grab the DD Crow because our opponent's graveyard not only has Engage, but they also have a Raye as well. So we're going to normal summon the Robina again. This time we're going to do it right, and we are grabbing Map. Robina, we will search the Stree, and figuring that if this is another negation of any sort, Stree targeting the Engage is 100% going to bait it out. Not to say that Sky Striker can't play without Engage, but it shuts off a lot of the ability to loop resources. So now we're pretty confident at this point. We're gonna use Map to get our M-Pen, and then we are going to use Eaglin to grab Apex Avion, and given that our opponent has one card in hand and multi-roll, we can stop the multi-roll during the end phase, and then just kind of turn this into all one-for-one trades. Plus we're getting rid of their Raye, so they really need to draw incredibly well to get out of this. You know, our first turns were rough, we've recovered. Let's just get rid of that, and plus we also have the Dreaming Town to summon it back out. So they are going to Cosmic in the draw phase, which is fine, because from this position, they need to normal summon or have Hornet Drones, but none of their Link monsters do anything, and we can take a Hayate hit from here. So we're pretty much in complete control of this game at this point. They'll kill the M-Pen, but that's their last card in hand, and we have more than enough to clear this. So we're just going to play it very safe here. Toucan, we're going to grab the Dreaming Town because we can just make M-Pen on our opponent's turn, perfectly fine, and we have Apex Avion to make lethal. And we'll do that there, and they will surrender. So let's get into game 2. Okay, so game 2, our opponent is going first. They have opened Droplets, Afterburners, Hornet Drones, Veiler, and Terraforming. Pretty good hand. We have fortunately opened Robina, so we have a starter, Advent to protect her, DD Crow, Harpy's Feather Duster, and Cosmic Cyclone. So we're pretty ready for whatever they have. They're going to Hornet Drone, Sky Striker Ace, make a Kagari, get the Hornet Drones back, make a Shizuku, Terraforming into Zombie World. So they're really going after us. So my thought process here is they only set one card face down. It's probably not the Hornet Drones because there'd be no reason for that. And they probably don't have anything else because I'm sure they would have set Widow Anchor or Imperm, or in this case, Droplets, which they did. So let's just clear everything in one shot with Feather Duster. So, okay, this might look weird. We're setting our Cosmic, we're setting our Advent, and we're setting our Dreaming Town. Hey y'all, Future Keasbey here. So, regarding the commentary here, I felt I didn't explain it overly well. Sorry, as you can probably hear, I was not 100% when I was recording this. So, deciding to set up to play on our opponent's turn here, we know 2 cards in hand. Engage, which we know that they will get 1 search from, probably Widow Anchor, which we can answer with Advent, but we also have the Crow to handle the Engage so it doesn't get out of hand, and Hornet Drones, which doesn't matter. Obviously, we could not have predicted the eventual Called by the Grave on DD Crow. Because this is Sky Striker, I assume that both unknown cards in hand are hand traps. Incorrectly, but I was half correct in that assumption. I'm gonna lose to Ash regardless of the turn, and the best move I could make at that point is to Advent out Robina for a new bird, in which case I'm going to my opponent's turn, knowing they'll have Widow Anchor access, and I don't have an answer to that. The other thing that playing on their turn entirely avoids is Effect Veiler. We can safely assume the other 2 cards in hand are neither Widow Anchor nor Imperm, since those most likely would have been set, nor are they quick play spell trap removal for the same reason. We are also running the risk of them top decking Droplets or them having open 2, but I feel like removing an entire hand trap that I know they are playing that I haven't seen yet has a better risk reward than worrying too much about what they might draw into. This could apply to really anything they could draw. Droplets would just potentially be the most devastating because if they do send a spell, I cannot respond with Advent of Adventure. Again, if they're holding Ash, I lose regardless of the turn. This also does play into a possible Harpy's Feather Duster, but at that point we could at least get into an M-Pen and hope to survive the turn. Overall, we're trying to play around 3 unknowns, the 2 in hand and the 1 at the top of the deck, and a 4th one that will also include a Widow Anchor when they activate that engage. This is a really weird game state that, with the limited knowledge I had, could have turned out a ton of different ways based on a ton of different factors that I have no control over. But I wanted to try to explain a little bit of what I was thinking here based again on my limited game state knowledge. If you try to decision tree this game state out, it will drive you crazy, and I can tell you because I attempted to. Anyway, back to the replay. So they're going to go engage. We have no target on field as well for Afterburner, so its secondary effect to blow up our spell traps is not live. Kagari, we're going to attempt to take out the engage so they don't get it back, but they have the Call by the Grave, unfortunately. They're going to use engage again, get a Rosé. We kind of just have to watch all this happen. We're being very patient, and this is the moment that we win the game. So, all the Sky Striker spell traps, as you probably know, cannot activate if our opponent has something in the main monster zone. We can forcibly keep this effect veiler in the main monster zone for the rest of the game. Let's watch. So, Dreaming Town, Robina. Again, we're safe from Imperm. We are safe from Veiler. We haven't seen Ash yet, but it is a risk that we kind of had to take. If we were going to get Ash, it would have happened on either of our turns. And we do kind of have to risk playing into the Droplet as well. We do know it's there because we saw it. But it's a calculated risk and it works out. So M-Pen is going to shut off all of their Link monsters. And Dreaming Town is going to force that effect veiler face down. So now we have effectively locked all of the Sky Striker spell traps out of the game. They're going to attempt to blow it up to get it off the field. We are going to use Cosmic Cyclone to force it to stay on the field. Now, if they do have the Sky Striker field spell, then they can do the exact same thing, but I feel pretty confident that they don't because it hasn't hit the field yet at this point. So, whatever, we'll take 1500, not a big deal, they'll set one and pass. So they kind of have to very early Cosmic Cyclone this because that's really the only chance they're going to get to take it out. Which is fine, it's banished, we can get it back with Toucan if we want to, but we're not going to need to. So we're going to get the map here to jumpstart our plays. We're going to grab Toucan. We're going to prioritize getting Dreaming Town back because we want to be able to consistently loop Dreaming Town to keep forcing this effect veiler to stay face down. And we can, at that point, really outgrind them because most of their deck isn't going to do anything with a monster in the main monster zone. Apex Avion is great in this situation because we really are down to 1-for-1 trades. So we're not going to attack this effect veiler yet. We're actually going to wait to set up until we can perform an OTK. Because again, the moment this is off the field, we've unlocked a fair bit of their hand. And based on how they played, when the effect veiler was face down, we can assume that a fair amount of their hand would possibly be very useful if they could use it. So they've drawn to another effect veiler. They're going to flip it face up. We're going to City of Dreams. Do our standard plays, get a Ryza. So now we're actually going to negate Toucan coming back to hand so that we can resummon Apex Avion. If we had summoned Ryza, we would have had to put something else back on top of our deck because we don't want to spin this back. We want this on the field. So we're just going to negate that, and then that will let us immediately resummon it, proc Dreaming Town, and we'll get back the Eklund. So we don't have a target for Eklund, but we needed to summon it just to be able to get into our other Floowandereeze monsters that were banished. So they are going to use effect failure, but that's fine. We have no problem bouncing Apex Avion back to hand. Toucan, we're going to get our Dreaming Town back so that we can keep doing our flippy flip. And Apex Avion comes down again. So there is a chance we could have tried to go for the OTK, but I didn't want to risk this face down being anything. We did know that they had Hornet drones, and that would have saved them from an OTK as well. So again, we're playing it slow and deliberate to make sure that we can safely win. And we'll set our Dreaming Town. And at this point, they've kind of seen what we're doing. They know that we're going to keep flipping this face down, and that will take the game for us. So that was a really cool example of a major play that we have against the Sky Striker deck, and that is if they ever do commit something to the main monster zone that can't be blinked out, we can effectively continuously loop Dreaming Town to shut off all the Spell Striker spell traps. I keep calling them Spell Striker, I'm sorry. These Sky Striker spell traps. So, if you enjoyed this matchup, don't forget to drop this video a like, comment if you have any questions or any other matchups you might want to see in the future, and subscribe to the channel for even more. And I will catch you all later.